Good morning everyone. We're now on week 2 of vignettes and small sections of things. Last week I covered windows, and so I seem to be following themes at the moment, so this week I thought I would choose doors for my theme. So I'm going to demonstrate an old door, which includes an old and shabby wall, which with stones and rocks and brickwork, and it's a surprisingly colourful picture, which is nice to be able to get the colours out. It always cheers me up to get all the lovely colours going, so that's why we've got quite a few colours showing on my little thing this week. And there are several techniques that I'm going to be showing as well, which will be helpful when you paint other things. Right, so those are the colours, and I've used a pen to create my drawing. I didn't draw it first with a pencil. That's not really particularly advisable, because that way you just get too fussy with it and you end up drawing it twice. So get that pen out and draw straight onto the page. I know you can all do that, but just to remind you, hold your pen nice and loosely, and that way you lose control a little bit and make it look a little bit more shabby and interesting. Make double lines, go back on yourself, keep that pen down so that you don't keep lifting and getting too detailed. Right, so my drawing is done, and I've actually, for the wall at the back, just put a very light wash of a Payne's grey to give it a bit of a tint, so that I'm not going back to white paper. And I've popped a little bit of salt on too, to just give it a little bit of texture, but it's more about the door and the brickwork. And so I've drawn all the little bricks and rocks and stones in, and I've actually gone over it all with a little bit of candle wax, all right, just to reserve some of that lighter colour underneath and make life easier when I start to paint it. But there's an awful lot of blue in the bricks, and little terracotta type stones as well, which look really nice, and those colours do look very good together. So I've got my bigger brush out to start with, to stop me from fiddling. So I think I'll have to stop and start, because it's quite a large thing to do, but I'm actually going to start with the brickwork and work down. I'll probably leave the door till last, and it is really just a matter of popping in these colours, because I've captured the drawing, so I'm actually going to very quickly just indicate some colour on the top and leaving some of that lovely grey colour showing underneath. So you can move it around quite a lot. As you can see, the candle wax is reserving nice light patches for me. So we are painting very loosely, just putting a wash on, not getting too detailed with painting every single brick. In a very detailed way. But try to actually vary the colours within the picture. Some of these bricks have a lot of blue in them, which is nice. So I'm going back every so often and just putting a little stronger mix in here and there where it's still wet. Nice little terracotta stones here and bricks. Dropping water back on gives texture as well. And between the bricks I'm going to have to go back and put some depth in to bring those bricks and stones forward afterwards. Which is going to help to show up the shape of them. So don't judge at this point because it's way too soon. Funny old music I've got on there today. I got told off again last week, so I've actually got a YouTube. Some YouTube music playing, but I don't really like it very much. Got some yellow ochre out as well, which will bring a little brightness in and a different tone. So when we're painting flowers and things like that, we tend not to touch too much, but when you're creating texture, you can actually create it more easily by putting, touching a bit more than usual and dropping water on and just mixing up those colours and creating lovely texture marks. So this is Windsor Blue. Trying to make it appear a little bit brighter here and there. This is the thing with a wash, you tend to get quite watery with it, and sometimes your colours might get a little bit weak, so you might just have to go back in. Right, so I'll have to leave that area to dry before I go between and put the depth between the stones and things. But that's going to be okay. That's got to completely dry. So I'll start working now from this way down. And we have some nice little beam going over the top of the doorway here. But again, you can leave white paper showing in there nicely. And then there's another little section of wood here. And again, don't always paint exactly what you see. Maybe you change your colours up a little bit and put in what you think is going to look good. It's a good idea to put the depth in that little section there, which is going to show the wood up, the wooden beam up a little bit better. Okay. They've tried to repair the wall either side of the door, and so there's some plaster work there, which is quite light. So that, and maybe very, very watered down sienna. So we've got the yellow ochre, another couple of bricks here. I've just remembered that I actually, when I was doing my drawing, I used a water-soluble pen there, so that for these side areas, so that that bled a little bit into the plaster work and loosened it up a bit, made it a little bit different there. So again, when that's dry, I can put a few more markings into that. I can work on the door because I don't have to touch anything that I've already painted. So this has got colours going on now in here. It really is all about the door. Maybe my flat brush will work a little bit better for these areas. So you think about the brush that you feel is going to work well for you. I definitely like a flat brush for edges of things. And I leave all the depth to put in at the ends as well. Right, now lots of colours in this door. So I have a selection of colours ready. I've got green gold, which is lovely sort of bright green. And again, you could put some candle wax on here, but I actually haven't this time. I thought I would let the paint do the work today on here. I wanted to keep a little bit more control to get all these colours in. The base of the door is still looking very unpainted. So to get that sort of colour, I think the sepia, watered down, will be perfect for that. But as you can see, I'm not getting fussy with it. I'm not getting down there and putting every bit of detail in. I'm just washing my colours in on top of my drawing. Be careful about going around things like flowers though, that you don't want to spoil. So right, so while that's still wet, there's no reason why I shouldn't go in on the top and let some of these colours mingle now. Keeping a bit of an eye on what's going on the actual photograph, but really not trying to copy it perfectly. That would be too restricting and not necessary. But just keeping an eye on what's happening on that lovely colourful door. Try not to cover that nice light green up completely. I've also got some indigo out, which is a lovely bright dark blue. They've obviously painted this door lots of times, trying to look after it. And this is the sort of thing we see in Corfu quite a lot. Couldn't make it up really. Right, it is all about the door, isn't it? This is burnt sienna. So working my way down, avoiding the handle, such as it is. That'll have to be rusty. So use the corner of your flat brush occasionally to get little bits of detail going on. So while it's still wet, you can go back and bring up the colour a little bit where it's gone a little weak in the water. And work in the direction that you see the grain in the door, in the wood, rather than across. I'll attach the photograph of this particular door because you may want to just paint this one. It is quite a lovely door, and it's nice to use all these different colours. I think I'm more or less there. Clean water. I do have two jars going on. I clean my brush in one and mix with the clean one when I have time. Sometimes I have to forego that when I'm busy and having to do this quickly, because it really does cut down time a little bit if I don't have to dip twice. I'm actually going back and dropping a little bit of water on the top just to make all this mingle a bit. It hasn't got a hole in the door, but I've actually created one because I thought it would look interesting, and I can show you how I would approach that. So I'm actually using a very dark mix of Payne's grey and neutral tint in there to create this little hole in the doorway. I would let the rest of the door, normally I would let the rest of the door dry before popping that in, but then dropping a little bit of water back on there just to bring some light in so that this doesn't look like a painted area on the outside, but it's got some light going on in there. Now we need to deal with the rusty handle. And that's alizarin crimson and burnt sienna. There's a lock as well, which is a little bit rusty too. Don't be afraid of going over edges. This is the whole thing with line and wash. It loosens it up and makes it look shaggy. Right, I'm going to stop for a second and let this dry so I can put the darks in. Okay, I've put lots of dark now between the stones because that really was and did take quite a long time. I'm slightly disappointed. I wish I'd left more light showing in my stones. I hurried that a little bit, but then I think, you know, that's optional. You can do that if you wish. But I've still got a few little darks to go in around the door and above and beneath the door, which always looks good because you can you know, look at the and see all the little cracks and breaks in the doorway, which helps to make it look broken up. You always wonder what's going on behind these doors. So that's quite an important little aspect of painting an old door. And it makes a difference. You can also get the flat brush out again and maybe put a few sections between the door, the panels in the door, the planks. But I wouldn't overdo that, and I think it's best to not get too fiddly with it. I think that's enough really. I think it's showing some of that anyway with the drawing. So that's fine. The step doesn't have a great deal going on. I did put the Payne's Grey on there with a little bit of salt on it to make it look crunchy, but it's got some shadow. Under here. Coming from behind the pot. And I've painted the pots already with a mixture of the alizarin crimson and the burnt sienna to make a nice terracotta colour, and left that one yellow ochre. So I'm just left now to do to pop some geraniums in. So whatever colour you choose, or you can leave them white. But I'm going to brighten the picture up as we're using lots of nice colour today. So I would put the flowers in, just dot them in like this before the foliage. Keeping them nice and bright. You could drop a little bit of water in just to mingle the colours a bit. Maybe this one should be slightly different over here. There are no flowers going on in the photograph. It's just they were just dead leaves and dead flowers, and I didn't really fancy that. As this is a colourful picture, I decided I would go with some pretty flowers. This one's looking a little bit dead. Now just a bit of foliage. But again, don't get fussy with any of this. That's a broken pot. It's all very broken up, the whole thing really. And there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't paint a door that's less shabby. If you know, a modern day door that's a nice, interesting door. If you feel like doing something a little less untidy and shabby, right, they'll do, I think. It's just some bits of dead stuff in this one. That one's been neglected. So that will be okay for that. If you feel that some of your little dark areas are not dark enough, you may just need to go back in, because the darker those areas are, the lighter and the more other areas will stand out, like between the stones and things. So that's one thing. But if you do paint this one, I would try to leave a little bit more light in your stones than I have. Maybe I didn't put enough candle wax on. I was a bit hasty there, but you get the idea. Right, so now a little bit of foreground, but not much. There are cobbles and stones and all sorts of things going on, but I'm actually putting a little bit of dry brushwork down and using some of the colours that I've been using in my subject. Skimming over the top surface, keeping my brush nice and flat. And leaving the rest light, which is going to be a nice lead into the picture and not getting too heavy with it. And it just looks textured, you see. So that's really all that's needed there, really. You could go a little bit darker around the step, I think. And in that little corner there, maybe. I think some shadow, some nice shadow. For the pots. I think that's it. So I hope you have a go at a nice door. And as I say, I will actually attach this one, and you can see what I mean about the wall. If you can leave more white and light showing in that, it will be better. I did get a little heavy with this. But the door I was quite pleased with, okay. But it's always a good idea to get your sketchbook and have a little try out of all the various sort of aspects before you go into your main subject, which really will be helpful for you. Another idea, if you feel like having some fun, might be, and I'm not going to paint this whole door, don't panic. I just want to show you what happens if you use a water-soluble pen. Being careful where you touch the pen work so that you can actually just let some of it run. And you really do end up with a very shabby, untidy looking affair. And all you need to do with your dark areas is just use water, because I've shaded in using my black Tombow pen, which I know many of you have. It's just a nice little bit of fun creating a nice sketch using that Tombow pen. and a quickie. But being careful about, as I say, where you pick up the pen work, and don't let it overtake. You can't just sort of paint over it with water like you would a magic colouring book. It won't work. But using different colours and painting that way, I'll perhaps finish that one, see how it turns out. Here's another one I did earlier, just showing really, if you didn't want to do all the brickwork, how if you drop in different colours and then drop water on the top, you'll get a lovely whitewashed wall that's got lots of different colours put in on top of the whitewash, and it's been painted time and time again, and that way you'll get lovely texture on a plastered wall. Okay, and don't forget shadows on your doors. I didn't just stop with painting a door. I did other aspects of doors as well. So I just did a handle, an old rusty handle. This may not appeal to you, but it appeals to me a lot. I love painting sections of things this way. This is why I decided that we would say that we were painting just parts of things rather than just, you know, vignettes. That way up. Another part of the door, an old lock and bolt. So these are all really nice things to do, to learn all the different techniques using, I keep going upside down, using the different techniques with candle wax and salts and whatever else you think your subject might need. But lots of techniques and lots of colours in these things, which are nice and fun to do. And I did talk about the possibility of painting a montage. I haven't painted a montage, but I've painted other things that I think could look okay in a montage. So maybe go inside your church when you're on your walk and maybe paint little parts of your church or a house, your house. Just creating different little subjects, parts of a subject, into a montage. You see, if I painted those all on one sheet, it would actually look really quite nice. So that's just another option for you if you want to try something like that, where we're painting sections of things this time. Right, I think I've probably gone over time, and it'll be difficult for the tech team to download, and I'll be in trouble again. But next week, I think we'll perhaps be... maybe I'll bring flowers into it next week, because we're sort of getting that way, aren't we, with some flowers coming and feeling a bit more spring-like. So maybe I'll have a theme with flowers next week for our vignettes. I hope you have a very good week and enjoy painting some doorways and doors. Take care. Bye-bye.